welcome back to the So There I Was podcast. I'm your host, Travis Womack. Today's a special guest of a friend of mine, Matt Dewagner. He and I served together many years ago in the old guard on staff, and so I'm sure we're going to have some good times here. Matt, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, Travis. It's great having me here. I appreciate you letting me join you.
So if those of you that are listening, you're missing out on some epicness of the glare of light at nighttime. Two very old bald men here having a good time. So, well, Matt, tell me. I know from our time a little bit about you and your career, but kind of walk me through kind of what made you join the army and just kind
Yeah.
of where all you went.
Yeah, well, probably like most boys our age, we that was what we did when we were little. We played soldier. We didn't know what it meant. We just played soldier. We played army. For me, my dad was a soldier. His dad was a soldier. So I'm third generation in the United States, or second generation in the United States, but third generation soldier. So it's pretty cool. My grandfather wasn't born in the States, but did fight in World War II for the Army. All tanks. My dad and my grandfather were both tankers. I wanted to be a tanker. Recruiter was like, you're 6'5". I don't think so.
It's not going to work out.
You're not going to enjoy it. I joined, I enlisted in the Army in 2004. And after being a moderately successful radio DJ in Houston, I decided I wanted to translate that to the service. So I became a broadcast journalist. Luckily, during AIT, I was sitting there just coming back from class, and I see these two or three really sharp dressed guys in their dress blues. And I said, well, what are these guys doing here? Did someone die?
Especially in '04, it's really different.
Yeah. And I was like, somebody die? And they said, no, these guys are from the old guard. And I go, I don't know what that means. And they said, well, they're looking for announcers. And I said, well, what announcing what? And they said ceremonies. And they said, well, you have to have a good voice and you have to be tall. So everybody looked at me. And
Check, check.
I said, okay. Next thing you know, orders changed, and I graduated AIT to go down to Fort Myer and became a ceremonial announcer for the old guard, as well as a public affairs soldier. So yeah, that was my first kind of forte into the active army. Was the I don't even want to call it the showbiz side, but yeah, definitely the more visible side, especially in that time period, '05. And I was there through pretty much the course to probably close to the end of '09. So about 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, worked my way up in ranks, did a bunch of very memorable ceremonies. And then I decided, let's forget this working for a living. Let's go become an officer. And so I went to University of Maryland, commissioned out of their ROTC program and commissioned. I wanted to be an HR, admin officer. But the Army, of course, in its infinite wisdom, said, no, you get to go be a camo first. So, and I said, oh, I was like, great. I don't know what that means, but I'll do it. Um, but no, the training, I kind of was kicking and screaming like most people don't like, no one wanted to be a camo. But for those that might be hearing this or listening to this, if you've done it and you've been to training, you know how fun it actually is.
Oh yeah.
The training's amazing. I always joke that if the Army didn't work out, I could take over Breaking Bad, because they did teach us how to do some things
Oh yeah.
that Walter White would be proud of. But yeah, no, it was a great experience. And then just kind of as normal kind of deployment, did that with Third ID out of Fort Stewart, great unit. I always hold the old guard close to my heart. Is just I still call it my unit. I'm not even in there, and I still say my unit. Well, my unit, we do this. But Third ID, just historic unit, great soldiers, great leaders out of there. And I had the opportunity to come back to the old guard as an officer. Of course, that's where we met
Yeah.
on staff, which and I'm sure you've had stories, and I'm sure you agree. There's times that were hard, times that were rough, long days, hot days, and you and I would always, I think, and probably because of our age,
Yeah.
and kind of moderately shared experiences in life, we would find the humor and be able to relieve some stress, even if it was just for two of us.
Oh yeah.
I mean, one of the best examples I always think when I think of you was how we would just change the font on a commanded staff slide just to see if the S3 would
Anybody
catch it.
catches it.
We would
I,
know it was different.
so I so when I left and took command right in fourth battalion, it's funny you mentioned that. I I went a step further, and I used to we had this really annoying slide for every commander had to brief it, and like it was like no one ever read it. I was like, why are we even doing this? Like this is like 9 slides. No one's reading this. So at the bottom, I put name of a soldier and put he's lost in the woods. And I had a counter that automatically counted on the slide, and it got to like 65 days before they're like, hey, wait. Womack, that's not funny. I'm like, oh, you got me. Like it's been there for 2 freaking months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, yeah. So anybody out there that's been a staff officer or is a staff officer,
yeah,
it's thankless. It's thankless work. It's necessary. You were on the you were the S4 side. You were the keeping everybody with the gear they needed. I was in the S1. I was making sure everybody pay was right and awards and promotions and all that. So I mean, kind of the I don't ever want to say the backbone because that's such an overused term in the army. But I mean, I think those two are the. I always told new soldiers, I'm like, when you go to a unit, the first two people you need to make friends with is the HR clerk and the supply sergeant.
oh yeah,
Those are the two people you need to make friends with. Who
that's the
cares?
truest.
I mean,
It's
it
the
doesn't
truest statement.
matter about anybody else. Those are the two because they're the ones that are going to get you,
Paid.
paid and help you maybe get in a next assignment somewhere or and then the S4 is going to make sure you have everything you need.
Yeah.
If you lose something, they'll be cool with you. Maybe you never know, but yeah, it's but yeah, no, the old guard is an experience, and like I said, those that know, um, I can definitely say I drank the Kool-Aid on that unit, but you know, but
Well,
no, it's a great job.
you're being modest here, Matt, because for those that don't know, Matt's official title was the voice of the old guard. If you're hearing his voice, you can understand why he has that name. And is we used to always joke about how that transition to every single promotion, every single award, every single banquet, dinner,
Mm-hmm.
everything is like,
Yeah, you name it. I mean, from just my enlisted time, actually, with the good thing is coming back as an officer, I didn't have to do anything. I think I did one or two little company level ceremonies.
yeah,
But for my enlisted time and then my time in Third ID, where I became the division's protocol officer, which de facto voice of the Marne,
yeah,
um, I think I clocked in just around 850 total ceremonies
good God,
in a span of probably 7 or 8 years, really, about 8 years, probably. The bulk of them in the old guard enlisted. Um, you know, and I've always had that question, like, what are some of your memorable, ceremonies? Well, yes, as you said, most of it were, so specialists being promoted to sergeant. Those are always great because you see that. Uh, the retirement ceremonies, for those that know what goes on Fort Myer, those are okay, but you don't know those people.
they're
You
redundant too. It's the
yeah, and they're
same
redundant.
script.
Same script every month. You're doing it, and it's and when I was doing it's lightened up a little bit. I can tell from the videos I've seen. But when I was doing it back, especially think about what was going on in the army
Oh,
in
peak of the
oh
surge and
oh 07 and oh 08,
yeah,
the surge. So a lot of people were getting out, especially a lot of, 05s and higher were getting out. And we were doing monthly, 98, 105, 110 people
yeah.
retiring. And it was
Well, so
just, I mean,
the norm was like 40 to
yeah,
50.
normal was
Yeah,
30, 40 people, and we're doing,
yeah.
3 times that much. So, the names and whatnot. But yeah, no, probably my two most memorable ceremonies while I was enlisted. I have three, but one was just kind of funny. My three most, I'd say we'll do three. We'll do three. Um,
Please do.
but so three in no particular order. No, from going from like the kind of fun one was 50th anniversary of the Daytona 500. So anybody out there that's into racing knows Daytona 500. So we were down there performing. Of course, I was the announcer for the Army drill team, and we just happened to be there in the crowd right before the race. The drill team had done some kind of little kind of expedition performances down on the
Infield.
infield area, And we were just there, and somebody walked up. I was in my ACUs at the time. That's I should have had how many uniforms I had behind me is what I
Yeah,
should
no
have
kidding.
had. Started
Yeah.
with BDUs, then went to
Yeah.
but I had my ACUs on. I was just kind of sitting there, and this guy's like, "Hey, can you come help me for a second?" I was like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Well, I'm with I'm with the NASCAR, blah 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 blah. Can you come help us? We just come up on stage for a second." And I said, oh, "Okay." And next thing you know, I'm standing there. This guy's parachuting in with the green flag, and he goes, "Okay, when this guy lands, he's going to hand you the flag. It's your job to get on the microphone and say, gentlemen, start your engines." And I was like, I can do this, And he's like, and he asked, he's like, "Are you okay with that? Are you have any problems like getting on a microphone?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's 120,000 people here. I can do this. No big problem."
No pressure.
So I get to say, I basically, for the 50th anniversary of the Daytona 500, I got to wave the green flag and say, "Gentlemen, start your engines." Pretty cool, and I got a
That's
great
pretty
photo.
awesome.
And I got a great photo of it.
Yeah.
The number two one, kind of similar realm, sports related, and you'll appreciate this one, I know, with your work with the Dallas Mavericks. So this was another drill team. We got to go all over the place.
Of course.
I'm very lucky. But we got to go perform at a halftime of a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. So I get my job, of course, to introduce them. So I grabbed the mic and I'm standing there and I went completely off script, and I welcomed everybody to the greatest arena, in the world, and blah blah blah. And I have a great picture with a couple NBA guys standing kind of next to me and behind me, looking over my shoulder like this guy. And what's funny is a couple of them, like Stefan Marbury, who I'm taller than, is like looking up at me. And I
Yeah.
always think it's funny. I'm like, here's this professional basketball player looking up at me in amazement, like, what is this guy doing? And then the people that are on the sidelines, I think one of their VPs of comms of communications was like, gave me his card, and he's like, "Well, if you ever want to get out of the army, give us a call." And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, okay, great." Um,
That's awesome.
and I would have loved that. I would love to have been like, the PA announcer for a Knicks game or something.
Yeah.
But then probably my top one still is not as fun, unfortunately, but it's definitely memorable. And that was uh, the opening of the Pentagon Memorial for 9/11. So that one happened in 2008. It was September 2008. And I was fortunate enough to be the one on stage reading the names of those
Oh,
individuals that
dang.
died that day. So it was a major event, obviously. And I don't mean the event of 9/11. I mean the event that was the opening of the
Well, both.
memorial, but both. But I mean, but the event of the
Yeah.
memorial was a very massive undertaking, multi-service, joint service. We had actually two announcers there. One was kind of the overarching, MC of the event, and then I came out. It was myself and an Air Force Master Sergeant, and we just kind of took turns. I'd read a page of names. I kind of gave the intro of what was going on, and then I read a page of names, and it was a very odd process to do it because we had rehearsed it, but I had an earpiece in, and so we had a director that was telling, okay, name, go. And I would read the name. And then in my ear, I'd hear bell, go. And they had a Navy, a Navy seaman would like ring a bell and they'd have the image on a screen. It was all these things that I'm hearing in my ears. And then, rehearsing it was one thing. And then live, we're doing it. I'm standing there. I remember looking down. I was probably halfway through my first page. And I look down and it's just all the families
Oh, yeah.
and they're crying
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're seeing their loved ones on the screen. And so I have the video. It's I can find it on C-SPAN still, but I saw the video, and you can tell in my mind, I know what happens, but I can tell when I stopped looking at the crowd because I
Yeah.
said I either am looking straight ahead or I'm looking at my paper.
Yeah.
I never look at them
You
again.
can't. Yeah. It's just all game
um
over.
yeah, because I was like, I've never lost it during the ceremony. I was like, this will be the one,
Yeah.
this will be the one. But yeah, that one is probably my top one that I can always say that, that's something that will always stick with me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm one of those people that I didn't join right after 9/11.
Yeah.
But I mean, I knew I was going to join anyways. And I
Yeah.
joined a little later in life, but that really kind of, that,
Final nudge.
yeah, that was the one. So I was like,
I didn't, I don't know why I never put the two and two together about your enlisted time,
mm-hmm.
but from 06, 07, 08, obviously, you know, my time in the old guard, we had, well, I think two, maybe three active duty funerals
Yeah, not
because it
many.
was, I mean, 16 to 18 was super
Uh,
low. I know that one Green Beret,
mm-hmm.
those two, whatever, the support guy, whatever.
Right.
Um, and I was like, oh, we have to do a Dover mission. Like it was like everyone had
Yeah.
like remember how to do that, and
Yeah.
because it'd been a while, and um, but I remember that was during. Were you there during Tom Cotton's time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was, and I always laugh about that now because he was a company commander when I
yeah.
was there. And I was digging around just the other day and I found an old script book. And in there, it was like, next online, Captain Thomas Cotton,
Oh, that's cool.
and it was, I was like, oh, that's
Small
crazy.
world, small world.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
but it's like
definitely.
it's interesting. It's like because I didn't have to experience that, and obviously, I got injured, had a massive hernia right when I showed up. So like my entire my ceremony time was like horribly interrupted because I couldn't put on the belt,
Right.
and the doctor's like, no, and which I'm sure that gave me a great reputation there for a new soldier of
Right.
any sort in any unit. Like, oh, I'm hurt. Great,
But but you got to tell him what it's called, though. You got to tell him what the belt's called, though, if you remember. Do you remember the
No,
Fat Man belt? It was
oh,
the Fat Man
yeah,
belt.
yeah. I mean, having to wear the flexing, but just the
Yeah,
actual saber belt
yeah, yeah.
was like directly where my hernia was at.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, it's not gonna work.
Yes,
And
yes.
but
Don't
like,
eat if you're gonna come to the old guard. Just
yeah,
don't. Just try to get the smallest waist you possibly can. You'll enjoy life a
it's
lot
well.
better.
There was a so when I was in command at HSC 43, we had a soldier, one of the tomb guards. He could wear a buff strap.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, that's not normal, Smalls. And his name was Smalls,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
like, you should not be able to like weave your way through your body around your shoulders and through your waist. I'm like, that thing is snug.
yeah. I think it's
So
about 28 inches is what it really is.
yeah,
I think it's
it's just
max at
so
that. Yeah.
small.
But yeah, it's yeah, no, during that time, yeah, my enlisted time, yeah, I got there May of '05. So '05 till September of '09. I mean, I will I can even imagine what the line companies were going
Oh, I was
through.
thinking, yeah. I
I
mean, having to
mean,
go the amount of funerals.
they were constantly, I mean, 5 days a week from 8 a.m. to 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
I mean, the hours of Arlington Cemetery. I mean, they were there. Bam, bam, case on nonstop
nonstop.
going. I mean, yeah, it was brutal for those guys.
But
It really
active duty
was.
funerals, that's the thing.
And that's the
It's
thing. It was active duty. It was filling up
yeah,
section 60. I mean, that's really what it was. It was section 60 filling up. Um, and we were there. And right before I left, we actually had, and talk about full circle. And you brought up the tomb guards. There was a tomb guard friend of mine, Adam Dickmeyer,
yeah,
and he had gone. He was there, tomb guard, did his time. Okay, next unit, line unit, go out, deploys, and guess what? His name comes up on the roster, and they're like, no way, and um, now that was obviously a huge turnout. I mean, the entire old guard came out for that one.
yeah,
And that was a major one. But yeah, it's just, I mean, when you see it go full circle like that,
yeah. I can imagine the op tempo. I mean, it's
it was hard.
it's what 8 full honors a day, anyways, no matter what.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
with the normal pace of transfers and everything else. But
mhm,
it's the most of those. I did the few you know cremation transfers or whatever. Like it was
mhm,
like there'd be one person there. It'd be like the
yeah,
cemetery representative and like
yeah,
the spouse and or whatever it was. So like I only did like 4 or 5 of those. But
mhm,
the case on ones, there might be 15, 20. I was like,
yeah,
man, you get those that active duty one, like
yeah,
that case, that round right there,
yeah.
was on thumbs up. um, um, was from one of my buddy's funerals right when I got there, and I mean, it's insane when you do an active duty funeral. Like my friend that I told you before we hit record, he's getting probably like 40 days, 50 days maybe is going to be his funeral there. And I'm like on Facebook, there's probably 150 of us that are all like, hey, let's make the trip. So it's just a
Yeah,
different. Um,
yeah.
we're not that
No,
old, so
yeah, and it's, I mean, for all of that, I mean, I think it's a great, I mean, this is turning into like the old guard remembrance podcast,
it's
but
great.
but in the end, I mean, it is. it is one of the technically it is not even technically it is one of the oldest units anyways. I
Yeah.
mean, if you go back to its origins, it really is one of the oldest units.
Yeah.
Um, you know what it does now, and they had deployed, and when I was there, Ogar
That's
was still
right.
deploying. We were still deploying.
That's right.
They would send, they were sending. In fact, right when I got there, I can't remember now. I can't remember offhand. I think it was Charlie Company had just come back from a deployment, and they
Yeah.
were actually in
To Africa,
Iraq.
wasn't it? Or
No, they
Iraq?
were
Okay.
in Iraq, and
Okay.
then they were sending another unit. I think it was this time it was Bravo Company was going to go to Djibouti, and then that was kind of a regular thing. And I remember, the young, yeah, quote young PFC that I was, I started hearing that, and I was like, hey, I'm one of those guys like raised my hand. I'm like, let's go, let's go. Um, and then I didn't get on that one. And then the next one that was slated, I think I was on that one as public affairs because I was like, hey, take public affairs, you need us.
Yeah.
And then that mission ended up getting canceled, and then that was kind of it. They didn't send
Yeah.
them anymore. So it's one of those things. I'm like, if you ever see somebody with an honor guard deployment patch, that is a unique thing.
Yeah. You are. That's a walking unicorn. Catch it.
I mean, that is a unique thing. So, I mean, I got mine anyways from somewhere, but that was a unique one.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
crazy.
but yeah, no, the missions there. I mean, it's just one of those places that I think it's a great duty station for people. Maybe, and I will. It's probably hard to say this, but maybe go outside. Probably not the brand new private infantry private. Probably isn't the best place for them. But you can kind of go. I can think two ways on that.
Oh yeah.
I think it's good, especially during back when I was there enlisted. It might be good because it's showing them, hey, look, this is the other side of what's going on. So
Yeah.
everything. So what all your infantry training, and when you go on to your next unit, just remember these things that you're doing
Yeah.
because it all has a consequence.
Yeah. Oh
If
yeah.
not saying if you don't train, or if you do, if you train, nothing will happen to you, but just know this is the other side
Train
of it.
harder to
You
avoid it.
know, because there were those guys. There were plenty of guys that, we had the term, old guard babies that were guys that just wanted to stay and never leave. One, because they were either really good at what they did
Right.
and they were valued. Other people, just were like, hey, this is a pretty decent job and I can do it. What I respected were the NCOs that I had met there that then they opted to get out of the army because there was, those again, I always say this that don't know that time period, people could get through, especially just in, I think, and you agree that in the army
Yeah.
in general, especially if you're enlisted, promotions were pretty fast back then.
Yeah.
Um, because they needed them. They
Yeah.
needed people. They needed people, higher up in the ranks. And I mean, heck, even myself, I mean, I joined as a PFC, so an E3. By the time I left, I was a staff sergeant. I was only there for 4.5, 5 years, and I
Yeah.
left, as a staff sergeant. Nowadays that's not happening.
Not in public relations, it's not.
Well, in a lot of
Yeah.
fields, you're not. I mean,
Yeah.
I have friends that have been in just a few years younger than me, and they're just now making E7.
Yeah.
So it's a lot slower of a promotion rate. But
Absolutely.
but back then, I mean, they were pumping people around, and you know, I knew a guy, same thing. He was about to leave as a staff sergeant, infantry, and he's like, I've spent my entire career here. I can't go. He goes, I don't feel confident that I could go to, a third ID or 101st or somewhere. He goes, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Lead a bunch of young soldiers who probably have 2 or 3 deployments at, that time
Oh
period.
yeah. It's daunting.
And he goes, and I've never been deployed, but I'm a staff sergeant. And I have my Ranger tab and I've got my jump wings and my air assault. And I look pretty. I have all this stuff
Yeah.
on my uniform. He goes, but can I lead people in combat? I've never done it. He goes, and one of them was like, I don't want to take the chance. I don't want to risk it on
Yeah.
someone else's, son or someone else's husband. And he goes, and so he just got out. He was like, I'm not going to do it. Other people have gone on, obviously,
Well,
and
yeah,
been
as I said,
successful.
plenty have done it, but it is a like a mental daunting
Mm-hmm.
task of like, huh, you know, I fired a rifle once in a
Yeah.
year because I mean,
Right.
for me,
Right. The rifle that I'm carrying most of the time doesn't shoot.
yeah,
It's got a bayonet stuck on the end of it.
right,
Maybe I'm one of the guys that's spinning it. I'm not even
Yeah.
really doing it. I'm spinning it around,
Yeah.
throwing it in the air, or I'm dressed in colonial garb and I'm wearing, I'm carrying a
Yeah.
musket around, and I'm saying again, it's no bad talk. The old guard, those soldiers are great. They are some
Amazing.
of the most professional soldiers. You know, when you talk about, expert infantry badge, the rate of those guys getting it is higher. Why? Because they attention to detail, because
Yeah.
they know how to study for things. They know
Yeah.
how to
Repetition.
practice. They know how to practice.
What's that's the piece I was going to introduce it myself, but you just brought it up. Is I it was what I was in the army already for 12, 13 years, 14 years. When I got there, and like you have this like mental idea of like this is what it should be, you know, and it met my expectations. Like the attention to detail, the standards, the lack, or not the lack, but the willingness to never accept like subpar,
Mm-hmm.
like, and it was across the board between junior enlisted, NCOs, officers, everyone calls everyone out like, hey, dude, your uniform is jacked up,
Oh yeah.
and that jacked up uniform in the L Guard is but way above par
Oh yeah.
across 9% of the Army, because this is the detail, and you can spot it a mile away,
Yeah.
and what's the old phrase about counterfeit money?
Oh
And
yeah.
like the people that study counterfeit, they don't study fake bills. They only study the real bill.
Mm-hmm.
That way, as soon as they see a fake, they're like, "Oh, that's fake. I
Yeah.
just know it." And
No. Yeah. I mean, think about after at any ceremony you marched in,
yeah,
you immediately do an AAR,
oh yeah,
and it doesn't matter your rank or what,
everybody,
someone will come out and say, they'll still say sir if they're enlisted, but they're like, all right, sir, I'm gonna tell you right now, uh, your belt was crooked.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, crooked.
your
Something you have
hat
no
looked
control of.
your hat, yeah, your hat looked like crap.
Oh, whose picture was that?
I saw we saw a smudge on
Oh,
your saber, or looked like you were holding your saber and it's all smeared up. Just all these funny
what
things like that. You're like,
what was the
what is
picture that somebody's belt was super crooked?
I
Was it?
mean, I don't know.
There's a
There's so many.
there's a
There's been
staff
so many.
photo, and they're like someone's belt was like,
Yeah. I mean, to use your podcast name. So there I was, you know, um,
exactly.
there was a ceremony like that, and I think they've learned from their mistakes, and that's a
Yeah,
good thing, because now the indoor ceremonial area is so fancy, and it's nice, and it's air
oh yeah,
conditioned.
it's controlled. Yeah,
Because anybody that knows Northern Virginia, DC in the summer, it's like you might as well be in Baton Rouge, because it's disgusting.
yeah.
It's 98% humidity. It's 100 degrees outside, and you're in a completely wool
Wool
suit,
coat.
um, cinched up,
Yeah,
with belts underneath your coat, another belt on top of that. You're dying because it's so hot. You can't eat, you can't drink. You got to stand perfectly still. Don't lock your knees. And I'll be honest, again, back in that, 05 to 09 period, we're outside doing these massive
oh,
retirements.
all the
I mean,
time.
we had, chairmen of joint chiefs retiring. We had chiefs of staff retiring. We had, all these guys retiring that their ceremonies would be 2 hours
Massive.
long.
Yeah.
And we used to take the over and under. We'd sit there and go
What's
like,
the
"What's the
number?
over and under for how many people are going to fall out?"
Yeah.
And you'd say, "Well, let's see, it's 90 degrees, and oh, by the way, it's only 9 a.m. by the way, and
Yeah.
it's 90 degrees outside, and it's 80% humidity. I'm going to say eight. And
That's fair.
and I, as the announcer, I felt bad because I could drink. I'd had my bottle of
Water.
water and I was fine, but I could look out and you would just start seeing these poor guys,
Yeah.
an hour in, just starting to drive. And it was like dominoes. As soon as the first one went, then they started going.
Yeah.
But the worst one ever, and I won't ever give a name, but it was a field grade that was marching to pass and review, and right before he got there, he just threw up all over himself, because he was so
Yes.
getting just
Yes.
nauseous.
Yeah.
But you know what? He stuck it. He's like, I just threw up all down the front of my uniform, but
He
I'm gonna
tries it.
keep going through. Um, but the funniest one always, and I don't know if it ever happened when you were there. They probably frowned upon it later on. But if you were going through the chute, so for those that know, that's the pass and review, when they always hold their sabers up and they look at the reviewing stand. So you're going through the chute, and outside it always happened, but you would go and you would stick the ground with your saber. And if your saber or sword, you couldn't go back and get it. And it would fall out of
Oh,
your
I know
hand.
exactly what you're talking about. I was
And
watching.
it
That
would
was my first time to watch.
fall out of your hand. And guess what? If you were in the front because you're staff, now you've got 5 companies worth of soldiers coming behind you, and
Yep.
they are all going to try to break your sword.
Yep.
They're all going to try to step on it or do something. I mean, because it just, there was one to say, I mean, you were probably going to get decertified. Um, you're going to get called out, all this stuff. But it was always like the enlisted soldiers were like, we're going to get that officer now. We're going
Oh
to
yeah.
break it. We're going to
Game
break it.
on.
We're going to break that sword if we
Bend it or
can.
something.
Yeah. So,
I
but yeah,
remember.
it was horrible though.
I know. I did one the march on for staff, obviously for indoor for retirement, and I don't know, like where your brain goes. You know, it's like it's simple. I think count to 48. This is not that hard.
Out there.
Like this is not that difficult a task. I majored in math. I can do this, and I got to 20, and for some reason my brain's like, let's start back at one. I'm like, what the hell just happened? and,
Yes.
and you're trying to count. Like you get there, like, is there a certain drum beat? Like crap, I missed a step. And so I called
Yeah.
staff halt, and luckily for me, it was one beat early that
Mm.
I called it. So like, but the drum ended and we all turned on the last beat,
Yeah.
which I always thought the way it should have been in the first place. But this complete accident. Oh man, I remember commander and the ceremonies guy afterwards were like, it's just counting. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know. I don't know what happened. My
It's
brain just said, let's start over.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I said. I mean, here I am. I can get in front of 120,000 people and get on a microphone and talk. That doesn't bother me. I think I always got nervous because when I would lead, I always got nervous
Counting.
being the one because I was like, okay, it's completely the eyes are focused on you, and if you're doing indoor, see outdoor, I didn't get as bad because that was a different kind of thing and I was the
Mhm.
adjutant, so it was a lot different
Yeah, oh,
doing
yeah,
the outdoor. I actually prefer to do the outdoor one.
yeah.
The indoor one was horrible because yeah, all the eyes are on you. There's like a spotlight on you, and you're just out there, and you're like, okay, if I screw this up, like
If I start too early, I'm going to get stabbed by someone else's saber.
right. But it's like, and if you screw it up, you're just like, that's it. Like everybody, the crowd wouldn't know. No one
Yeah,
in the audience would know. It's
but
all the people.
everybody else
It
knows.
was all the other people holding clipboards that were grading you every ceremony. And you're like, God. And so for the next hour, that's all you can think of. You're just like, oh, that's what they're going to tell
Yeah,
me about,
you're just
you know?
yeah. That's the worst part. You're like, crap.
But I mean, it was bad when you were on staff. I mean, you couldn't move, you
Yeah.
couldn't shift your weight really. I mean, we all had our little tricks of how you could kind of move a little,
What
like real
pinch
slow.
your toes real slow.
Yeah, I mean, you can bend the best was when the colors finally got in front of you for the actual retirement. Then
Oh
you
yeah.
could be like, okay, I can kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah.
I can bend my knees. I just like everything is like super slow. Like you're trying to like avoid a security camera.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna move really slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, or heaven forbid, if you got a coughing fit.
Oh yeah.
That happened to me once. I was like, please don't cough. I was like, you feel, you're just like, Oh, that was horrible
That's
too.
they're like me
But
right now. I've been coughing the past week. I'm like, this is terrible. And so I remember so you were lead on my first ever ceremony. I was right behind you.
yeah,
And I think Kozlowski was probably behind me because that's the
right.
height thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was we reversed it,
Hmm.
and Kozlowski K was in front and I was in the middle because
Hmm.
I'm the perfect height to never be up front. And but what's funny is I'll never forget because we had to move the staff to move the colors, and like we turned, and like my leg was like, "Hey, we haven't had blood in a little while.
Oh,
Um, this is
oh
gonna
yeah,
hurt." And I
yeah, yeah,
turned, I swear, like all the blood in my head, like fill up the leg, go. And I was
yeah.
like, "Man, Matt's head's getting really small. Oh, crap, I'm
Uh,
passing. I'm walking
yeah,
and trying not to pass
yeah,
out." That's the absolute
yeah.
worst feeling.
That's really anybody that doesn't know. Just everybody's like, oh, you're just standing still, but no, but stand perfectly still.
Yeah,
Like stand at a military attention and don't move.
yeah,
And oh, by the way, you have a sword, you have a saber in your hand
yeah,
that you're trying to like with your right hand, and you're trying to make sure it doesn't move, and it's not. That's the other thing is you can't be wiggling that around because that thing's
yeah.
glistening
It's
off the
shiny.
spotlights.
Yeah.
So you're being perfectly still, and
You have white
you're
gloves in front of a blue uniform.
white gloves in front of a uniform. You're wearing shoes that are completely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
because there's steels and you're gonna, they make noise and all this stuff. And just, yeah, I mean, stand there for 45 minutes and then
Yeah.
go, okay, yeah, exactly. Now I got to move.
Oh,
And your legs would just cramp up. And,
so
which is
you,
why we never did PT before a ceremony. You don't do PT the morning of. That's
I think you,
why.
I don't know if you were gone and Ruben replaced you yet or not, but it was the 3-star that went to be the national security advisor when he
Mm,
retired,
okay.
and but General Milley did the opening part of it, but General Milley did his part, and it was 38 minutes,
Hmm.
right? And normally when there's that you exercise the troops,
Right.
you go from parade rest or ceremonial IDs to
Right.
attention and back. So that
Mhm.
one little leg movement, it means the
Yeah.
world. Trust me, to
Oh
anybody
yeah.
who's doesn't never done that before. But like Colonel Garkey turned around and he was about to say attention to
Hmm.
everybody, and the guest just walked over to the microphone and started talking. So the only person that was the staff and Garkey, those four. That's it. They got exercising. I remember I was in the top rafters, being like, "Oh no, oh no,
Yeah.
this is gonna be long." It ended up being so it's 37 minutes and 36 minutes, and
Yeah.
nobody fell out. I was like, that's over 75 minutes straight
Yeah.
at attention basically. And I was like, this is why we do the test.
Oh yeah.
Is can you stand for 70 minutes and
Yes.
not move? And I
Yeah.
always thought that was a
It's
great
hard.
thing.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I could I do it today? Probably. Would I want to do it? Absolutely
Nope.
not.
I I
my
just walk
knees, my
off.
knees couldn't handle it right now. So
Oh man, I got the small folded up flag that says I don't have to do that anymore. So
yeah, exactly. I know. Mine's
so
coming. Mine's coming very
yeah.
soon. So
So were you you're in the reserves now
so
or
I'm in the National Guard.
okay, National Guard.
So I left active duty. Some people, I don't know, some people would say I was crazy for doing it when I did it, but I left after 15 years of active duty service. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm gonna just join the National Guard and do my time. Um, the people that are like, you only have 5 more years. I always tell them, okay, good, you do them for me, and let me know.
Yeah.
Did I have a horrible, you know, just career that destroyed my life? No. While I was in, I met a, woman that I love, and, we have two great kids with, but, I didn't have to move around
Oh yeah.
15 times. I mean, God, I was 15 years active duty. I spent 8 of them in the old guard,
Yeah.
enlisted and officer. But, for me, it was a life decision. It was something that, and I used to tell young soldiers, I'm like, we'd go to these high schools where the drill team would perform
Oh
or the
yeah.
fife and drum or whatever event, anything, any outreach event that we were doing. And they'd say, well, I don't know if I want to join the army. Well, why should I join the army? I want to join the Marine Corps or whatever. And I said, look, I don't care if you join the army. I don't, if you want to join a service. That's great. Um, what I would tell you is, you know, make the service work for you. Get them to do something for you. Get them to pay for your college. Get them to
Oh yeah.
pay for some kind of credentialing or some other training or, you know, yes, do your service. That's great. You absolutely should. But, have a plan. Don't just go, well, I did 4 years and I'm going to get out and I'm going to see what I can find. No, don't do that. You know, I went in with a plan. I joined as public affairs. I said, okay, I'm going to do public affairs. I already had some college. And while I was in, I said, okay, well, I'm going to continue my degree. But then I was like, well, if I'm just going to do that anyways, let me go ahead and do ROTC and get a commission out of it. Let me become an officer. Okay, great. Became an officer. I was doing HR work. Well, you know what? I like this HR stuff. Let me go get a master's degree in it now. And by the
Yeah.
way, the Army is going to pay for it,
Right.
and then you do all those things and you say, and, in different assignments. And I was playing the long game because I was looking at my career and saying, okay, well, when I get out and want to have a job, what job am I gonna do? Well,
Yeah.
I want to stick with this communications thing. So I'm going to take all my experience now and say, and I do that. And, and that's what I do now. I do, public affairs, strategic communications. I do, that's my career field. But, I wouldn't have been doing that if I hadn't done it, 20 years ago, making that
Yeah.
decision. And that's what I tell people that, that you got to start with something. You got to start with that
Oh yeah.
idea. Um, but yeah, it's some of the younger kids, they would, younger soldiers, they would listen to me. And I think that was the benefit of being in the S1. They would come in and I would, okay, hi, where are you coming from?
Yeah, free counseling. Let's go.
Yeah, I would, and that was the thing, especially with stuff like ROTC packets. Um, and I'm sure you and anybody else that listens to this knows a lot of these, an army school like airborne or something, your unit's going to take care of you. You want to go, you make the cut, they're going to send you, you can go, great. But like other things that are like that,
Abnormal.
like ROTC or
OCS.
OCS, all the warrant officer school, whatever, those things, the selection process is so hard. They only take so many. When I went, I did the green to gold active duty option for ROTC. I think at the time they were only taking about 100 people across the entire army for that cohort.
Oh, the active
Um,
duty one?
yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
they only took about 100. This is again,
It's a
this is
great program.
and this is '09 time. They only took about 100, I think 100, 150, but and you're talking about across the entire army of everybody that applies. I'm not saying that a million people apply, but let's say there's 10,000
Well,
people apply. They're only going to take 100 of those. So you have to have good PT. You got to have, recommendations. You got to have all this stuff. And in the packet, I actually probably could find it was a binder,
oh,
is
yeah.
the packet. And no one could help me. Like here I am, I'd go to the education center on base and say, hey, do you have somebody that does this? No, we don't have anybody. Or their information was outdated by 5 or 6 years.
Oh, that's
And
the worst.
and then you'd have to find like somebody's like, well, I think, Sergeant, Snuffy over there, I think he's done it before. Well, must not be successful. He's still a sergeant. So I had to do the legwork and I did the research and I built my book. And then, so while I was in S1, when I came back as an officer, I had my book. And I remember a couple young soldiers going, hey, sir, I want to go to ROTC. How do I do it? And I said, well, sit down.
Okay.
We're gonna work your packet and I'm gonna do it
It's brutal.
because I was like, no one helped me.
Yeah.
No one helped me, so I'm gonna help you. And that's kind of the super long answer to get back to I'm in the National Guard, but that was kind of the but that's kind of the reason is that I was like, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
I'm still serving. I'm still in the National Guard. I'm still doing my job. I'm still serving my country. I'm serving my community. But I made the decision for me. I wanted to do it for myself. And
Yeah.
now, granted, hindsight's 2020, and that's a really good number because I joined in 2019, not knowing what 2020 was going to be like to join the National Guard in the National Capital Region.
Yeah. She's busy out there.
So so there I was, thinking that this was going to be a little easy last couple of years. And then, let's fast forward into COVID operations and
Yeah.
civil disturbance
Riots.
and riots and, political uprisings and or whatever. I mean, just yeah.
All the above.
So to say that I'm happy that I have one more drill coming and then I'll be done is an understatement. So
Yeah. I always, most of the guests I have on here, I tell them it's funny because, the Friday the 13th of 2020, right, is the last day I put on a uniform. No, this really was. So
that's awesome.
I was in the Pentagon, and I was in the G1, and I was looking around, being like, "Huh, my boss isn't here. This is weird." And my boss is not here, and he's the general, and he reports to General McConville. I'm going home. Like I'm a captain in a room full of like 7 lieutenant colonels and like 2 colonels. I'm like, nobody's talking to me.
Yeah.
I've checked my email and I don't know what else to do with my hands. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
remember going home, and that was the last day I put on uniform. I teleworked the next 3.5 years,
Yeah.
and it's like this weird anomaly because I mean, one, I volunteered for the future of work
Mm.
pilot, so they created a UIC specifically for me
There you
in Dallas, and
go.
they PCS me here to Dallas, and so I remotely worked from here at my house to the Pentagon for my last year and a half, and the only time I put on a uniform was technically for both COVID shots because I had to go in the building to
Mm.
get those, and then we had to do a dog tag and ID card check. So I had to put on my top at least for Zoom.
You're like, hold them up.
I did. I totally did.
Yeah.
And and then I got promoted to major, so I put on my uniform for that,
Okay.
and that was it. So I can count 4 times in 3.5 years that I put on my uniform. Everybody's like, that's not fair. I'm like, oh, it gets better. I've never been to JRTC.
Yeah.
I've never been to NTC. I've never been to Korea, but I have 39 months in combat. Go figure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a no Korea guy. I'm a no NTC guy. I did go to JRTC.
Yeah.
Uh, um, with third ID, but and then I got my, Afghan, so there I was stories, but um, but even that, like I had to admit, like I went as our brigade protocol officer. Um, Little did I know that that also meant I was going to be on the PSD for the colonel.
Oh yeah.
And here I am,
Logging miles.
but I'm laughing because here I am, I'm an admin officer. I was the lieutenant. And but the colonel, he really liked me and he was just like, no, you're gonna be on my PSD too. And I was like, okay, cool, like what does that mean? And I was kind of naive and I was like, oh, so we're like going out there, like walking around doing stuff. So I was like, that's cool.
Follow the truck in
Um,
front of you.
but in the end, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
There was highs and lows, just like anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that too much, but it was great, and I mean, I could talk for hours and hours about the funny stories or stuff like. I mean, the fact that I remember. I mean, you brought up McConville. I remember he was the overall. He was the ISAF commander, 3-star when I was
Yep.
there, and I remember him coming all the time to because I was at. And for those that know, I was at Fob Shank, aka Rocket City. Um, so we were kind of the big fob out there close to the Pakistan border,
Hmm.
and which is it's no longer there, obviously. But we were the
The
last
base at
unit.
the border.
Yeah, that's based on the border. I hope it's still there. But we were the last unit there. We left at the end of 2013. We were the last unit there, and then it just went over to the Afghans after that. Um, but yeah, McConville would come, and I would pick him up, and from one spot and drive him around, and Millie Carrot. I'm sorry, General Milley was the ISAF commander, so I'd pick him up, but he would come with McConville, who was 2-star, who was the
Hmm.
division commander, and it's just funny, like to see those guys because I remember hearing stories about how Millie pinned on McConville's 2nd star, and they would just like
Hmm.
talk. They would like be just talking to me, um, and even oh, now I'm a loss for words. Now, I can't remember the guy's name. He was a 1-star. He was the DCGO. Um, oh God, I can't think of his name now, but he cracked me up because he's still serving. I want to say he is. Oh man, I don't want to say wrong names, but he was a great general. And we were flying back on our colonel's Black Hawk from Bagram back to the fob, and because I had basically had to go pick up the general. We're coming back, and we started taking fire. The gunner of the Blackhawks, engaging. The general basically taps him. He's like, "Let me get some." He's like, and here's this 1-star, like, I got him. you know,
Haven't done this since just ever Nam.
I know. I mean, that's why I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is where we're going. Okay, but yeah, no,
Good
it
times
was.
out there.
Oh yeah, but yeah, we all have those. I think we all have those kind of crazy stories
Oh,
like
the
that. But
Afghanistan's if you're on the east side of Afghanistan, it's a whole different world.
yeah, but
So,
it was great. I mean, it was great. I mean, I got to run into a couple old guard brothers while I was
mhm.
there. One who I had actually served with. We were both together announcers, so it was kind of funny. He was there. Of course, I was an officer, but he was still enlisted. But he was there doing his public affairs role. So that was kind of cool. Like I took a bird up to go see him. We like hung out. A couple former sergeant majors from the old guard I'd run into. They were
Oh
with
yeah,
10th Mountain, and they happened to be out there. And it was one of those things that you could be 10,000 miles from home. You see a friendly face, and
immediate connection. Yeah,
you're like, man, this is it right here. Like,
yeah,
let's stop and smoke a cigar together,
yeah.
and just hang
Talk
out.
about not passing out.
Yeah, no, that's an out, and basically have the conversation you and I are having.
Yeah,
Except we're armed a little more probably, and but yeah, we're maybe a little uncomfortable and dirty, but yeah, no, it was great.
It's good
But
times, man.
yeah, but the National Guard's not bad. I mean,
It's different.
it's different.
Yeah.
It's a lot of. I mean, what I'm noticing is a lot more people that are. Um, it's hard because I always thought National Guard was like, you know, kind of what I did. It's like, oh, people serve, and then they're kind of done moving, but they still want to serve, so then they continue on. There's a little bit of that, but there's a
It's
lot of
all,
people that just that's all they've ever done is
yeah.
National Guard, and so it's a different mentality, I think. And so my PSA for anybody is if you're doing that, if you're gonna if you're gonna go from active to National Guard, if you have an opportunity, go visit that unit. Because just like any you don't get to do that in the active army. You can't go, look,
No, you just show up.
I think about joining the 101st. Let me go check them out. You don't get to do that. But National Guard, you could do that. You could go and be like, I just want to see. I want to go, if it's a place that you live or are going to live, like take leave, go check it out. See, what are the facilities like? You know,
Yeah.
do they drill in some rundown basketball gym or are they in a nice facility that you can actually do training? Do they have equipment? Do they not? Like
Hmm.
what are the people like? So
What's
that
your
would be
job?
my
What would your job even possibly be?
yeah. What is your job going to be like?
Yeah.
Do you have to bring your own computer? I do. Do you have to bring your own computer to work? You know, um, but it's just that kind of stuff. But um, yeah, it's good and bad,
Yeah.
but I think
Everything is
it's
though.
but and just the process of things takes a lot longer because people only work, I mean, you have your full-time people, but a lot of your staff is 1 week in a month.
Yeah.
So, processing things, there's no quick actions, that's
Yeah.
for sure. So,
So I totally get it. Well, man, this has been a lot of fun for sure. I'm
yeah.
sure we could sit here and reminisce almost every ceremony we've marched
Oh,
in
yeah.
and the ones we've watched.
Oh, yeah.
But if I agree, if anybody's out there that's it's a fantastic place to go at any
Mhm.
point in your career. If you get the opportunity to go and you're taller than the average person, it's great. If you're not tall, they have waivers for that, but it's a lot easier if
Yes.
you're tall. Um,
Yes.
and if you're bald, the hat it's a lot better.
It's
Just
true.
throwing it out there. It's
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 true.
a lot less haircuts to get, but
That's right. That's right.
it's from two old guys here that um heavily enjoyed our time. I definitely did. It was fun working with you
Yeah.
in a very very old building that's been renovated.
I
Um,
know.
so
I wish I could see it.
yeah, I saw a picture of it today. They posted the all the Ranger competition
Oh,
guys. The
there you
heck,
go.
um,
Yeah.
on there. So it's pretty cool. So, but Matt, thanks a lot, and we'll have to catch up again soon. And definitely, if you're in town, we'll have to have a meal and a beer and
Yeah.
tell more stories. So
Well, yeah, great. It was a pleasure, and I wish you all success on this and everything else you're doing.